Are 8th generation game consoles still worth buying in 2023 and beyond? Let's find out. Recently, I asked my viewers if they wanted to see a video on, are 8th gen consoles still worth it in 2023 and 24? The majority of them voted yes, so here is a video for you guys. 8th generation consoles are starting to see the sunset, as the newer generations have well and truly hit the market, excluding the Nintendo Switch, as it's continually updated and revised by Nintendo. However, Sony has had massive success with their latest and greatest PlayStation 5, and Microsoft is seeing big success with the Xbox Series X and S. Nintendo was still seeing major success with their Nintendo Switch, which was released back in 2017, and have also introduced a Nintendo Switch Lite, which costs $100 less than the regular Nintendo Switch, depending on where you live. With some video games now only being available on 9th generation consoles, this is pushing the older generation away slowly, although many players out there still have an Xbox One, PlayStation 4, or a Nintendo Switch, which I honestly do not see being discontinued anytime soon. Sony still makes and supports the PlayStation 4 as well, although it's clear that now the newer generation of consoles are here, there will be a slow push away from the older generation. This has always been the case and always will be the case for game consoles. Despite this, the Nintendo Switch is also considered to be a 9th gen console, so this probably means that we won't be seeing a new console from Nintendo anytime soon, as developers are still able to make heaps of cash from developing and publishing games for the Nintendo Switch, and as expensive as these are, it is a cheap offering into the video game market, especially for kids. However, a good chunk of 8th gen, and even 7th gen and 6th gen consoles, are still kicking around. You can find lots of older Xboxes, PlayStations, and Nintendos for sale on eBay, Amazon, etc., mostly because there is a niche market for retro games, and like movies on DVD, video games can be quite tangible and collectible, especially older titles on older consoles, and the backwards compatibility on newer ones also helps users to play older titles, although not every console has backwards compatibility, and even if it does not always run the older games, as only so many are supported, although the Xbox has always been far ahead in this regard, as even with the 360, released at the end of 2005, had support for playing the original Xbox games, and the Xbox One and later can play both 360 and original Xbox games, though you have to check the support status of the specific title you wish to buy and play before making a purchase. Despite the good feeling of older games, most people are not interested in buying both older consoles and games, that's why we always see a gradual push towards the latest consoles, so when Microsoft released the Xbox Series X and S, many developers are now only writing games for that system, though the Xbox One is still considered to be a viable gaming system, so is the PlayStation 4, and the Nintendo Switch will go on for quite some time yet, but the 8th generation is starting to see ashes to ashes, dust to dust, as many developers, including Rockstar Games, Ubisoft, Electronic Arts, etc., are now making some titles exclusively for the newer generation of console. This has happened forever throughout the gaming industry in years past, and it will continue to happen, as we live in a very disposable world where planned obsolescence is a real thing. Planned obsolescence is where a product has a limited and finite lifespan. A perfect example of this is Microsoft Windows, the very operating system that runs just about every desktop PC on the market. Windows usually has a finite lifespan, and when newer versions are released, Microsoft proactively puts an end-of-support deadline for the older versions, and the last version that hit its end of life was Windows 8.1, but you can clearly see that even in the gaming industry, planned obsolescence haunts gaming consoles too, so if any of you have an Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, or maybe even older, you would likely know that for at least a couple of more years, your console will get some games for it. The Xbox 360 was still having games made and sold until around January 2017, and the PlayStation 3 was discontinued around the same time. However, the sale of games for this specific generation did not stop. It was only about a year later did we now see the complete phasing out of older console games. However, a good chunk of those titles can be purchased online for very little money, and a good chunk of Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch games can also be purchased online. Even PlayStation 2 and 1 and original Xbox titles can be bought, as well as Nintendo GameCube games, Sega Dreamcast, etc., etc., etc. There are so many bygone console games that can still be purchased for very little, but the need for that has died down as these days, if your PC is powerful and capable enough, you can run an emulator to emulate these games. Now sure, it won't feel the same as playing it on the real console, and you have to do some extra setting up and configuration, and you have to download the specific game you want to try. However, compared to buying an older console that is most likely going to be worn out due to lots of use, an emulator offers a very inexpensive solution to playing older games, although I personally prefer having a physical console to play games on, as you can buy them and have them forever. What I really mean is that once you pay for a game, you have it for however long the included disc lasts for, and with older games, generally speaking, what you see is what you get, whereas nowadays, the huge rise of DLCs, downloadable content, has been so great that even big-name titles like Forza Motorsport and Gran Turismo have been heavily affected, and the inevitable push towards this started all the way back in the early 2000s, just before the Xbox 360 and PS3 hit the market. However, it was not until after 2010 that the downloadable content was inevitably going to be the way we accessed our content in video games. So nowadays, many users who cannot pay, or decline to pay, for the specific DLC will miss out on that specific car, or whatever it is they have to pay for in order to use. And personally, I think this is like armed robbery, because you can be paying lots of money to get a cartridge or disc for the game, and then only to have to pay for more stuff later on down the track. Can you not see how that's a form of robbery? Sure, the developers of these games get a lot more revenue, because video games being subscription-based is much better for say Rockstar Games than if they let you buy the game once and never pay for it or anything in it again, and this is what the companies who make the beloved games realized, so this is why they stopped giving you everything on disc or in a cartridge, and instead make you download it with hard-earned money, whereas even in the days of the 360, a good chunk of games did have DLCs, but the game was not so chock full of them that it ruined the gameplay. Nowadays though, all video games have some form of subscription lurking inside of them, whether it's the Crew Motorfest, Forza Motorsport's downloadable cars, or even DLCs in a different genre of game. The armed robbery situation has not changed and is only likely to get more and more as time goes by, which is quite unfortunate and sad to say the least, but you, me, and everyone else can do absolutely nothing about it. We are beholden to these corrupt corporations, and nowadays, a good game is far from what the developers want. All they want is the big dollar sign. Yep, that big dollar sign with George Washington standing next to it, is exactly what every developer, including Rockstar Games, wants, and this could be a reason as to why they're taking so long to release the next new version of GTA, the supposed GTA 6, and while there were some leaks earlier this year, nothing has actually been confirmed by Rockstar themselves, so we will have to wait and see as to whether or not GTA 6 is a real thing, and a possible Red Dead Redemption remaster is on the way, according to some sources, so until we see it, we might as well not believe it. So, are 8th generation consoles still worth buying today? It's a bit of both yes and no, and this really depends on what you want, you need, and your preferences, so if you like Xbox One or PS4 titles, exclusively, then I would say that yes, there is good point in buying these older consoles. I would even say that a PS3 or Xbox 360 is worth buying, granted you have lots of games for those systems, or you are willing to buy some. However, with the introduction of emulators, and the vast majority of games also being available for PC, consoles have become less of a thing. However, they offer a cheap and compact solution for families, and game consoles will continue to be very popular for many years to come. However, the exclusivity of newer consoles will always push the older ones by the wayside, never to be seen again, although there seems to be a good chunk of Xbox Ones, PlayStation 4s, and Nintendo Switches for sale online. You can even buy really old consoles like the GameCube, Dreamcast, etc., but that would only be good if you were specifically going to play titles designed for those consoles. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. See you next video. Bye for now.